The views, opinions, and advice expressed in this podcast are solely those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and positions of Pattison Media or the sponsors of this program.
Breathe out, 2, 3, 4.
Wellness is
when we have cravings, it's not because we're weak or no willpower. It's because the cravings are caused by the drop in your blood sugars.
We still need supplements and trace minerals to make sure our body has the building blocks to really catapult you forward in the journey of health and anti-aging.
I think there is great satisfaction in trying something that is truly difficult for you.
Humans need everything they can to help them. So all these products that are coming up today and all these strategies are really important to help us use our brain to its maximum capacity.
Welcome to Choosing Wellness, your podcast for practical advice about how to attain better physical and mental well-being so that instead of just surviving, you're thriving. Choosing Wellness is powered by Pattison Media. In this series, we'll share a health journey, explore the trends, and talk to the experts who will help you live your best life, and we'll have fun doing it. In this episode, we talk about blood sugar with Dr. Ding and Nootropics with compound pharmacist Michelle Gray. Life Unlimited Stephanie Staples talks about potentiability. Yes, it's a made-up word. And an unexpected diagnosis of pre-diabetes is our Being Real story. I'm Linda Freeman. Come join the journey of choosing wellness.
How to choose wellness.
Dr. Jenny Ding is a Canadian lifestyle medicine physician and the founder of Kale Health Canada, which is an online diabetes reversal platform. She has a particular interest in blood sugar management, having embarked on a personal journey to understand and reverse her own prediabetes. Certified by the College of Family Physicians of Canada and trained at Harvard Medical School's Institute of Lifestyle Medicine, Dr. Jenny Ding, welcome to Choosing Wellness.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's so great to have you here. And I know that people can't see you, but you are right now on a walking desk. So you're going to be moving throughout this conversation. I just love this. I have seen the standing desks, but I didn't know you could get a treadmill desk.
It's a fantastic addition to any home office, and I love it for the days where I'm working from home, just to get my steps in.
Oh, it's wonderful. And I mean, as they say, we need to keep moving. So that's a good way to be moving.
Yeah.
Now, this might seem like a straightforward question. And I know there's many layers around this, but why do we gain weight?
Yeah, that is a great question. And you are right. There are many layers to this question. So I'll touch on some of the higher level points. To start, there is a physiological aspect. And what I mean by that is that at the very basic level, weight gain typically occurs when there is an energy imbalance. So, for example, when we eat more than we use up, when we consume more energy than what our body ends up using, we end up accumulating the excess energy as weight. There is also, of course, the hormonal aspects as well. For example, certain hormones, especially things like insulin, play a very important role in how our body processes food, processes sugar. And so there's also, of course, things like genetic components and environmental influences as well, our lifestyle factors, the way we live our lives today.
How does our weight gain, though, throughout our lives often get out of control?
When it comes to weight gain, it's about 70-80% diet and 20-30% exercise and everything else. So what we're putting in our body, what we're putting in our mouth is super important. When we make some poor dietary choices in the short term, it can end up spiraling and creating a cycle where things like blood sugar and insulin levels spike, and we go through spikes and crashes. yes, we might feel satisfied, fulfilling our cravings in the short term, sending our body a flood of happy signals like dopamine, the sugar rush, etc. But in the long term, it does backfire on us, increases things like hunger, it makes our cravings worse, it messes with some of our other hormones in our body, and then downstream, it really kind of compounds and leads to things like weight gain.
So why is our blood sugar so important to our overall health?
In order to really answer this question, we need to kind of understand how our body processes things like sugar. So for example, every time we eat anything with carbohydrates, they all get converted and broken down into the basic building blocks of glucose, of sugar, which is our body's preferred form of energy. And so when we have a lot of sugar floating around, it causes insulin to be released from our pancreas, then takes the sugar and stores it away for a rainy day. But if there's always things floating around in our body causing inflammation, the high sugar in our cells, then that causes issues, that causes our body to be in a stressed out state. So really, end of the day, in order to best look after our overall health is to prevent the big fluctuations in sugar spikes and crashes, so we're at an even level for most of the time. And that way we're not having things like weight gain in the long term, but in the short term, we're having less inflammation. We're not having the cravings. We're not feeling always hungry. We're not feeling fatigued all the time. Brain fog, all these things are related to blood sugar end of the day. So overall health, it's all tied into blood sugar in some ways, right?
And keeping that blood sugar even, is that what we're trying to do? Is that a way to get people to understand that you don't want those ups and downs and spikes throughout the day in your blood sugar level?
Exactly. It's the spikes that causes problems. So ideally, we want our blood sugars throughout the day to be like flatline.
It's the one thing we're okay with being flatlined. Not the heart rate, but the blood sugar is all right.
But the blood sugar, exactly, yeah. But in our perfect world, it does not happen for so many things, like for our exercise, when every time we eat anything. So, for example, if we eat things like a cookie, sometimes it just shoots up because of the high sugar amount. And then after that, what happens is our body produces insulin. It kind of produces sometimes too much insulin because it's expecting more sugar to come in. And so it overshoots the insulin production. And then it brings us into a dip. It crashes our sugar. And sometimes after eating a cookie, we actually feel more hungry than before we ate anything. That's because we're just going through that crash. And then you end up taking in more energy by eating in something else to help you feel better. So you're always going through this cycle of highs and lows and highs and lows. And over time, that causes lots of health problems.
I look at this as like the 3:00 crash. You just want something and you put it in and you can't really control yourself. Like you're going to eat whatever's in front of you. And I think this is what a lot of people really have a problem with, is that they just don't know how to stop because their body's telling them that they need this.
Exactly. You hit it right on the point. A lot of the time we feel kind of out of control when it comes to our body, when it comes to our symptoms, when it comes to things like cravings and hunger. The most common symptom of sugar spikes are things like cravings for sweet foods multiple times a day. When we have cravings, it's not because we're weak or no willpower. It's because the cravings are caused by the drop in your blood sugars, the hormone changes, which in turn causes you to do all these other compensatory behaviors like eating more things so you feel better.
I know we could talk for the majority of this conversation just on what we can do to try to control those blood sugars and the spikes within our bodies. But are there some takeaways that you could give to people to help them?
The most important step for everybody to start right now is some dietary modification. Blood sugar control and diabetes reversal is really about 70 to 80% nutrition. So by focusing on a diet high in whole plant-based fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, healthy fats, it helps to regulate your blood sugar level. So the fiber in all these things, the protein, the phytonutrients, antioxidants, they all work together to blunt the blood sugar spike and prevent those crashes from happening. Diet and nutrition is one key thing. So the other thing is really about physical activity, to start moving your body a bit more. Even though the World Health Organization recommends people to do an average of 150 minutes of moderate intense exercise per week, right now only about 17% of Canadians are meeting that target.
17%.
17%. Yeah, so that's a very low number. It's 150 minutes a week. Let's say divided by 5. So that's 30 minutes a day, Monday to Friday, right? Yeah.
Wow.
So it's not a huge amount.
And I think that people really aren't aware of how bad this can be for our health. So can you walk us through some of the key things that happen if we do continue to have blood sugar issues?
The short-term blood sugar spikes and crashes causes long-term consequences. For example, in the short term, we get things like cravings, fatigue, poor sleep. In the short to medium term, it can be things like impaired immune system, because the blood sugar causes inflammation. Inflammation is systemic throughout our whole body, unfortunately. And inflammation also happens in skin. So we end up maybe having things like adult acne, psoriasis, eczema flares, faster aging, wrinkles on the skin. So that's one way how it affects our appearance on the outside. And even longer term, we end up having things like heart disease, coronary artery disease, Alzheimer's dementia is now known as almost type 3 diabetes, because that's how closely linked blood sugar control is to our brain health. And there's also things like depression, anxiety, mood variabilities, hormone imbalance, infertility, polycystic ovarian syndrome, worsening menopause symptoms. Like all these things, end of the day, can be tied into poorly controlled blood sugar. So it is a very serious health concern.
If you get your blood sugar under control, can you reverse some of these things and some of the damage that you may have done over the last 10, 20 plus years of your life?
Once we get our blood sugar under control, that is the starting point to getting all these other symptoms under control. Because once our sugar is under control, we no longer have the cravings. We no longer feel hungry all the time. And the hormones starting to become more balanced. We're sleeping better. We're not bloated all the time. And so we can definitely reverse a lot of these things, whether they're short-term, medium-term, or long-term symptoms, by getting our blood sugar under control.
It's amazing. Who would have thought so much is connected to your blood sugar? Is there a way to monitor your blood sugar levels that someone can be doing on a regular basis?
Fantastic question again. When you start feeling some of the symptoms I've touched on, the first step to do is to reach out and, for example, speak with your healthcare provider, your family physician, and ask to get tested for things like diabetes, prediabetes, some other metabolic conditions, to do that screening test. And on an average day basis, there are things like continuous glucose monitors that you can wear to see how your blood sugar changes throughout the day and see how certain behaviors can really affect your blood sugar levels. Myself, I was able to actually reverse my own prediabetes by using things like the continuous glucose monitor to help me to really see the real-time changes that's happening inside my body. So there are lots of these great technologies out there that's available now for people to use and to really understand what's happening a bit better.
Amazing. Dr. Ding, thank you so much. For more insights into Dr. Ding's approach and services, you can check out kalehealth.ca.
Thank you very much.
Coming up later on Choosing Wellness, Dr. Ding will tell us her journey with a diagnosis of prediabetes. Health Tag. Nootropics are supplements that can improve human thinking, learning, and memory. So, what are the key supplements we should be looking at taking to help keep our brains sharp? Choosing Wellness producer Karen Habashi tracked down compounding pharmacist Michelle Gray to get her perspective on what we could be taking to help our health.
Hi, Michelle, and welcome to Choosing Wellness. Before we go into our discussion on today's episode, can you please introduce yourself?
Michelle Gray, I'm a pharmacist. I own my own pharmacy here in Kimberley, BC, Gray's Compounding Pharmacy. I started my career as a pharmacist in 1998. About 5 years later, I was hired by a local pharmacy to start learning compounding. Compounding is the art and science of making medication from scratch, so that in essence, we're problem solvers. We have to figure out what is going to be the best solution to solve the problem. So it's a lot of fun. I really am very passionate about everything I do.
So when people think of wellness, they usually think of supplements. But there's a huge misunderstanding about supplements. Are supplements different from one age to another, from one gender to another, or it's like one size fits all?
Certainly some things can apply to a lot of people. However, each person is their own individual experiment, so to speak, because we all have different histories that we've come into a particular situation with. So it really does need to be tailored to each person. Otherwise, you can get super overwhelmed as you look at the wall of supplements. And if you start Googling what's what, well, everything sounds great. I'll just take everything. Oh, really? Are you going to take a handful like that? And then, oh, it hurts my guts, or it doesn't make you feel well. So then you don't continue. And you never got the benefit out of what you might have thought you were going to be doing.
When you watch health gurus on social media, there's a rise in talk about brain health and what you need to take. What are some supplements that are excellent to help their brain function properly?
So you bring up an interesting topic. What would be good for your brain? Well, are you sleeping well? That's a big one, because if you're not sleeping well, then you're just chasing your tail, and that creates bigger stress, and just you go down, 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 down. So magnesium crosses the blood-brain barrier. That is going to help with the mental relaxation. So taking those omega-3 fish oils that are really high in DHA. So fish oil is omega-3, and that's EPA, DHA. The EPA is anti-inflammatory in the body effect. DHA is anti-inflammatory in the brain. So if we're having that brain fog, or it could be ADHD or any kind of injury, DHA kind of wash that anti-inflammatory effects in the brain.
So other than the regular testing for like vitamins and so on, is there a specific test that you usually recommend people to do to know if they need those supplements or if they are deficient in certain nutrients or certain enzymes?
There are some really good tests out there, like when doctors may test magnesium levels and B12 and ferritin, iron, like those are all valid and useful reports. But just because the labs are saying one thing, I'm also listening to you, and I'm getting a sense of what it is that's going on with you, symptoms, your story, your stress, what medications you're on. And that guides me, because something starts to click in my brain and I start to puzzle together things and I ask more questions. And it all leads me to come up with some potential solutions, and people are telling me they feel so much better.
That's where you come in handy, because you're looking at the person, you're talking to them, you're understanding their symptoms, and then they're connecting, sort of a detective work, right?
Yes. We're trying to work on a national pharmacare system, but we're so concerned because across the country and across the world, the alarms have been sounding. The baby boomers are getting older, and the ship is going to sink because of how much medication and expenses in the medical system altogether they're going to cost. And why haven't we been focused on preventative medicine? So that's where today's generations, they're like, we don't want to be like our parents. I don't necessarily want to be in a care home. I don't want to be in a vegetative state. I need to take care of this brain. I need to take care of this body. And they are seeking out preventative medication. So that's why here we are in this Choosing Wellness podcast. It's exactly speaking to our baby boomers and everybody behind it, because we've got technology behind us. We know we can search up stuff. Unfortunately, Dr. Google can present us many different options, and you don't know what is real and what isn't. What's the source? Who's put it out there? So that's challenging. And then trying to seek out sources of professionals that maybe have that training, but sometimes we are misinformed because we placed our trust in somebody who we thought had that knowledge, but they never actually had the knowledge in the first place.
With the rise of wellness, it can bring great things, but there are also harmful things that comes with the whole social media wellness industry. What are some harmful trends that you've heard about or you've seen that are actually disguised as something good for you, but it can actually harm you if it's done or the dose is wrong or you don't actually need it and can be causing you more side effects?
It kind of goes back to the beginning of each person is their own individual experiment, and we all have our own story. Take the information, but it can't be gospel. And we need to come to someone that is knowledgeable and go, okay, here's what's going on with me. And here's what I heard. Is this appropriate for me? Or is there something else that maybe I should be considering? We still need supplements and trace minerals to make sure our body has the building blocks. So when we kick in all these repair mechanisms, it's got what it needs to really catapult you forward in the journey of health and anti-aging.
There is a lot of misinformation out there, and that's where you need to take this information and go to someone like your pharmacist, your doctor, or naturopath, and assess what works for you and what doesn't.
There's so many things out there that are positive. If you're going to try anything, it's probably good to try it for at least 3 months to see what response you've had, if any.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you, Michelle.
Life Unlocked.
You may be doing it already and just don't know it.
The fad of so-called biohacking, the quest for longevity and wellness, aiming to slow down aging and revolutionize personal fitness, using a fusion of AI, medicine, and tech. It's an estimated $17 billion industry, forecasted to reach as high as $81 billion by 2031.
It's called biohacking, and it's a term used to describe the movement behind a quest for better biological function to enhance the body's ability to function at its highest performance. How and when you eat, sleep monitoring, meditation, and intermittent fasting. They're all examples of biohacking. Whether a person is seeking weight loss, metabolic efficiency, or better digestion, biohacking and food go hand in hand. Because controlling what, how, and when one eats is a biohack most people can readily understand. Biohacking is drawn from neuroscience, genetics, biology, and nutrition, pulling from these modalities to improve overall health and well-being. Simply put, biohacking is a do-it-yourself biology. The idea boils down to not leaving the status of your health to luck, chance, or genetics. As we look a little deeper, biohacking is a global movement with the idea that you can change the environment inside and out so that you have control of your own biology. Now, where did this start? Well, from what I could dig up, Dave Asprey, known as the father of biohacking, is a 4-time New York Times best-selling science author.
Biohacking is a mission.
I am planning to live to at least 180 years old.
I spent $2 million on upgrading my own biology and counting. I'm planning to live long enough to meet my great-great-great-grandkids and play with them.
Asprey and mostly other affluent men like Jack Dorsey, who's the ex-Twitter CEO, are the ones largely responsible for pushing the term biohacking into pop culture. Almost any tactic could be considered biohacking if an individual employs it intending to enhance their biology in some way. Therefore, the categories and possibilities for biohacking are vast and almost overwhelming. One that most of us can identify with is lifestyle. This category is probably the most accessible way to start experiencing biohacking, as it includes factors like dietary shifts, breath work, meditation, and exercise. Things many of us are trying to do just to live a healthier life. Now, moving a little deeper into the category of molecular biohacking, we begin to look at the use of natural and synthetic molecules that can help shift one's biology. We talked about supplements earlier, which would fall into this category. Technology like wearing a smartwatch, blood sugar monitors, or anything that gathers data about the body and how it functions is part of biohacking. Then there's biologics, which refers to a cellular or biological product that you typically ingest or inject and is meant to improve or enhance your biology, like the use of stem cells. Now, is biohacking safe? It's had a bad reputation as it's been practiced ahead of the science and controlled clinical research settings. However, when approached with evidence-based information and supported by healthcare professionals, biohacking can be safe for most people. One of the fastest growing areas of biohacking is around aging. There's a lot of interest in reversing cell damage, so many people are focusing on cellular health and regeneration. The idea is that if the production of damaged or senescent cells can be reversed, then so can the physical and aesthetic changes that come with aging. Wouldn't that be cool? Whether these ideas work or not, hopefully time will tell as more scientific research continues in the more advanced areas of biohacking. Coming up, we talk about whether nootropics can help us be more mindful.
Being real.
She's a physician who focuses on lifestyle medicine. She was eating well and exercising. So how was she diagnosed as a pre-diabetic? This is Dr. Jenny Ding's story. This is Being Real.
My name is Dr. Jenny Ding. I am a lifestyle and culinary medicine physician certified through Harvard Medical School and also a practicing Canadian family physician. About a year ago, I started experiencing some vague symptoms of feeling a bit lightheaded after eating certain foods, some fatigue, some hormone imbalance issues as well, and mood swings. And I was a bit curious, so I asked my family physician for some blood tests and found out that unfortunately I was pre-diabetic, which really surprised me because there was no family history of this. My grandparents are in their mid-80s, their blood sugar is fantastic, and I, already working as a lifestyle medicine physician, thought I was already doing the right thing. I was eating mostly plant-based whole foods, exercising regularly, running 5, 10Ks, half marathons, yoga, etc. And so that diagnosis was very shocking, very surprising, and that kind of caught me off guard. And that is the turning point for me to start really thinking, okay, well, maybe what I thought I was doing is actually not what I need to be doing. And then I kind of looked into really the research behind blood sugar in depth and looked at the most up-to-date scientific articles and created a program for myself to reverse my own prediabetes in under 30 days. And now I've been able to even control it a lot better, and I'm just feeling the best I've felt in years. What I realized through this process is it's about how you do what you do. And that might sound a bit intuitive, it might sound a bit basic, but really our body is a machine at the end of the day. And yes, we need to put in certain things like certain foods and use it in the right way. But we really kind of have to do it in a sequence, in an organized manner in order for it to function the best. And if we do things out of sequence, then it's going to get confused and the hormone levels are not going to be very great because it's saying, oh, why are you doing this when I should be doing this? So you have to kind of dig down into the basics and say, okay, let's have a process to get it back under control. I'm an Asian female in my early 30s. That is not typically a demographic that you think would be at a higher risk for things of diabetes and blood sugar issues. And typically for the average population, we don't start screening for things like diabetes and metabolic conditions until you're 40 years or older. So myself, I never thought, okay, this is something I need to be looking into, but I did just out of curiosity, and that's when I found it. And then after I went through my blood sugar journey, and actually when I was going through it, I looked to some of the statistics behind diabetes and prediabetes. Age is a risk factor for blood sugar issues, but given our modern lifestyle, our diet, our nutrition patterns, etc., many more young people today in their 20s, in their 30s, have either prediabetes or diabetes. But we don't even know it. We're not aware of this because we're not paying attention and we're not asking to be tested. So my advice really is to be attuned to how you're feeling, be attuned to your symptoms, and to start looking into it, to start asking some questions and start taking more ownership, more control of your own lifestyle, your nutrition, and what you're doing on a daily basis, so that once you have an idea of what is going on, you can start making some changes, some gradual improvements to get it back on track. Now I'm much better, much happier, much healthier, and just feeling great overall.
Thank you for sharing your story, Jenny. For more information on Dr. Ding, you can go to kalehealth.ca.
I'm nice for a living. I'm nice for a living. I'm nice for a living. I'm nice for a living.
Life Unlimited with Stephanie Staples.
Well, it's time for Life Unlimited with nurse turned motivational speaker Stephanie Staples. It's always great to have you here, Steph. I listen back to our conversations and I always get to pull something out of it that really does help. I just love that it's simple and it's easy for people to grab this content and information and do something with it.
Yay. Well, you know what? We want to make you think, and which is great, but we also want to make you act, right? So that's what the juicy stuff is.
Exactly, because we can think a lot about a lot of things, but it's whether or not we act upon it to then have better lives. Now, this is an interesting concept. It's the space and time that no one talks about much, and it's called liminal space.
Liminal space, yes.
Liminal space. So I would like you to explain to us what liminal space is, because I was like, I don't know that I've ever used this word before.
Well, to tell you the truth, it was a new word to me too. And I was looking for, I'm like, I have this space and time. What is it called? It comes from the Latin word that means threshold. And so it can mean a lot of different things, but it can be described as like an uncertain transition. It's not where you've been and it's not where you're going. It's somewhere kind of in the middle of the two. It's kind of being on the precipice of something new, but not quite there physically or maybe emotionally. Like I used to be this person, but I'm not quite this person yet. Maybe you're moving through, you're transforming, maybe you're going through job transitions or a relationship shift, something that's, we were there and we're going here, but we're not there yet. That is the liminal space.
But you like to call it potentiability.
I just made up that word, potentiality.
I know, it's a good one.
I'm going to use juggling as an analogy. If you've ever learned to juggle or thought about learning, you throw up these balls and they all just fall down, and you keep throwing up these balls and they fall down. But at some point, you catch like a ball. You haven't learned to juggle yet, but you get this feeling, it's like, oh, I got like one. Like, I think if I keep practicing, I might get that. And that is what I realize is the space that I love. When you realize it's a glimpse that you have the potential to develop the ability to do something that you never thought you could do. And I think that space is such a cool place to be in.
It is that place where you're like, oh, I think I might be able to do this, right? And I think we transition from that first place to that end place, that this in between that you're talking about, this liminal space, it can be very exciting and exhilarating and get to the final destination of learning how to do something or knowing that you've got the ability to do it. And I think that's really cool.
One of the quotes that I have altered is Abraham Maslow. He says the greatest satisfaction comes from mastering something that is truly difficult. By the time I master something, I'll be dead. There's very little I am going to master. So I think there is great satisfaction in trying something that is truly difficult for you. For you. I never thought I would be able to do that, but now I'm working at it, and then I'm feeling that second of potentiality where I don't have this yet, but I think I'm going to learn this. And it's just such an amazing feeling in your body and mind. You don't have to be perfect. In fact, I think that is something that really holds us back, is thinking that we have to be super good at whatever
the task you're trying. It's very true. Like we do. We think we have to be so good at it. But the journey to get there is what can be that personal motivation that gets you excited, and that feeling of, I'm doing this.
And everything you thought you couldn't do that you are making steps toward, it makes the next project, the next challenge, the next thing come a little bit easier. We have a little more self-confidence too.
Yeah, and a piece of all this too is exploring new activities, actually allows the brain to make new connections between neurons.
Yay.
And then that creates new neural pathways and develop that liminal space.
And I think there's a few keys to making this potentiality work for you. One is like not taking yourself too seriously. Two is not caring so much what other people think.
Can I stop you on that one? That's a tough one, Steph. I'm glad that you brought that up. You can't change what other people think about you. So don't let it weigh you down as much. So talk a little bit more about that.
Well, what if what other people think of you is none of your business? What if it's absolutely none of your concern? That they get to think whatever they want to think, and we make judgments all the time, and some things you like, some things you don't, and the whole world's going to keep spinning, and I'm really not going to spend much of my life judging you because I'm too busy judging myself. And one day I was talking to somebody, and they wouldn't go in the water with their child because of how they felt they looked in a bathing suit. And I thought, that'll be a cold day and you know where, when I won't put on a bathing suit because I care what some stranger that doesn't know me, care about me, like me, is going to think about me. That I'm not going to go play with my kid at the beach. Like,
you're not going to miss out on something amazing in your life because you care too much about what other people think. And you're right. Like, not everyone's going to like you. That's life.
Well, and I recognize it's easy to say don't. I realize that's just maybe sounds flippant to say don't care about what other people think. But here's what I would maybe suggest is, can you practice that? Can you practice that on like littler, smaller things, to see if, does it really matter? Is the world stopping? Is anything changing because I went out with my shirt on inside out, or like nothing really changes. So just practice with little things. And I mean, awareness is the first thing, and you said it. Then we can start making little changes to make it better and serve us better. This is your one great, amazing life.
Yeah.
Live it well. They're going to judge you anyway. You may as well do what you want to do.
As always, thank you for giving us something to think about, like an actionable item that we can actually do or use in our lives. That's why I think these conversations are so great and so important. Now, before we go, anything else you'd like to add?
Well, think about something that you've been curious about, that you thought you couldn't maybe never do. And what level could you maybe do it on? Maybe you can't do it at the level 10, but you could try it at level 2 or 3 and just kind of be good enough. I'm not a good juggler, but I'm good enough. It's just one more way to live your life unlimited.
Thanks, Steph.
Mindfulness Moment.
Earlier, we touched upon supplements, and specifically nootropics. Nootropics can help human thinking, learning, and memory, and therefore help us be more mindful. Claire Maisonneuve is a clinical therapist specializing in anxiety. We close this episode with our mindfulness moment.
I think that as a race right now, humans need everything they can to help them be more focused in their thinking, be more alert, and have more clarity and have more concentration. So all these products that are coming up today and all these strategies are really important to help us use our brain to its maximum capacity. But also what it does is it helps us engage the nervous system. It helps calm the nervous system because of all the fear and anxiety that's going on in the world in this present time. We need every strategy we can to help activate what we call the parasympathetic system, which is the calming response in the body, and help relax the fight, flight, or freeze response in the body, because too many people are living in fight or flight. So all these products, they're trying to help calm down the nervous system. They're trying to help focus the mind, enhance our capacity to learn, and have more clarity. However, I want to warn people that all those things are not a substitute for the work that we ourselves need to do within us through mindfulness, through meditation, because these products cannot take the place of activating our own will. Activating our will is something that happens when we meditate. That's a big purpose of meditation, is to activate our own will, our own willpower. And when you meditate and you activate your will, that's when you really learn how to focus the mind, how to learn to be calm in your mind, how to be centered and quiet. Because we need to become more conscious beings. We need to be more spiritually evolved and awakened. And so we're trying to do that through a lot of these nootropics. And they will help us understand ourselves a little bit better. They'll help us be calmer, but they're not going to take the place of us doing a thorough inspection of what we carry in our minds and in our hearts. Some of these experiences might elevate our understanding that there are higher levels of consciousness, but they're not going to take away our habit patterns of reacting with anger, frustration, impatience, resentment, meanness, unkindness. All those things, we need to do the work day to day. And that can only be done with using our capacity to introspect, to look at ourselves, to calm the mind, and to be focused, and to activate our will and our willpower. Otherwise, without mindfulness and meditation, I think we become a little bit like automatons in our daily life. We wake up, we have a shower, we eat, we go to work, we come back, we eat dinner, we watch TV, we go back to bed, and we repeat this day after day with this most unimaginative variations throughout the best years of our lives. But we become like automatons. We're not really living consciously. We're not thinking consciously. We're not focusing our attention where it's going to matter. So the only way to do that and to find the joy and inspiration inside of us and to find the ability to concentrate and to be discriminative and to be understanding and to have confidence is, again, to go and tap into what's inside of us. We keep looking for these things outside and around us, but everything we need to live a joyful and happy life is inside of us.
Claire Maisonneuve is with Alpine Counseling Clinic. You can find her at anxietyandstressrelief.com. Life is challenging, and choosing wellness in our daily lives may seem like adding to the already long to-do list. But together, we can make it easier. Join us on the next Choosing Wellness as we tackle inflammation in the form of arthritis and a look at what's new in the world of mushrooms. I'm Linda Freeman. Let's connect again soon as together we take the journey of choosing wellness. You've been listening to Choosing Wellness, an initiative powered by Pattison Media, designed to inspire and motivate a healthy life. For more information on this program, go to everythinglifestyle.ca.
Another Everything Podcast production. Visit everythingpodcast.com, a division of Pattison Media. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast.